of the Adi Lakshmi painting, one of the 8 forms of Lakshmi avatars that are known or celebrated for all the positive propensities of life. I am so happy to take this session with you. And this particular session is going to be a continuation of layer 4. Before we get into the session, let's quickly go over what we have done so far. Our layers 1 was a wash, layer 2, prior to the layer 2 we had to do some planning and execution with the help of grids. The moment we were done with that, the next step was to go over those grids, move the grids away, and sort of bring that um, execution to the front with the help of colors, and that's what we called as layer 2. Layer 3 was building a little bit into what is dark and what is light, sort of defining positions with the help of colors itself. The moment we were done with that, we were ready for much more detailing and nuances, and for that, what we are really doing is building depth. So we are building depth in layer 4, and that we started with the last class where we did the face and her body, the girl's body and face. Once we are done with that, we are right now ready to move on to the next set of activities, next set of spaces where we want to work on the same thing, that is the layer 4. So to get started with the layer 4 here in the rest of the space, I think we are going to start with the costume. So the green, and also the red that she is wearing. Yeah, so the skirt. So we'll work on these 2 colors first and see how things go, and then move on to a little bit of jewelry as well. Yeah, I'm going to get started with the um, clothing here. The first thing I want to take is a olive green color. We have the shade of light green here. If needed, of course, I'll use a little bit of titanium white, but I want to look at the variations that I could build onto this green. And in the picture of the Lakshmi, you will see that the green is just shown as a golden green. There's a yellowy tinge to it, so I would like to use that in places where I can. So I want to keep primary yellow also ready, as usual. A bit of titanium white to keep handy if needed. The variation of colors when I want some dark, because we are now going to continue creating the depth. For depth, of course, we need many variations of colors, just like the way we worked with the face, where we used it's not that we used a lot of colors, we used a good variation of colors and created different tonalities. Especially the way we worked was that a couple of colors you saw me mixing on the canvas, on the palette, but most of it was just on the canvas directly. So you'll also see me doing that. This is just my style of working. I wouldn't just say that you must do it exactly this way. If you are someone who prefers to have colors ready, mixed here, blended and then used, please go for it. That's also a good practice. I'm using brush number 1 flat. So I want to use this color, the olive green, and add a little bit of primary yellow to it. So I am creating this color tonality that is possibly in the middle. Not going to use white yet. I want to wait until I define the color tonality. So I am giving this color filling it fully. Unlike what I did in the previous session, here you see that there is a majority of space that is on the front, which is in the light. So I'm going to give that color tonality in the majority of the spaces first. A tiny bit of oil, but not too much. And I will also go very close to the place where the spacing I have given for the jewelry is there, because of course, you know, we will work on the jewelry detail also. So I have filled this section and the color seems to come out bright, and it is translucent. So that's exactly why I did not bother about taking titanium white, because I just want it to reflect what is there in the previous layer as well. Unless you choose to do it differently, that you want to hide something and create another color tonality altogether, I think it's a good idea to just go with this. What I have right now is my olive green and primary yellow only, and both are kind of helping me in this process. So I'm keeping to the spaces where there is light. I haven't touched the sides yet. I would come to that in a short while. Fair enough. Okay. So now I want to add the lighter and darker dimensions. So for the darker ones, I'm going to take burnt umber, mix a bit of burnt umber to the green. I still want it to look on the greeny side, so I don't want it to turn totally, you know, like brown or something. So it should have a feel of a darker green. So I'm not taking too much of burnt umber. I'm taking a little more of olive green to mix here. So it is still, you know, the olive green texture, but it is darker. And I want to go over those angles nicely, sharp angles, and blend them in. So it looks like what we did in the previous, but we are going to soon move even from that to create further nuances here, just like the way we did with the face. Yes, darkness here, darker shades around the shoulder lines. Shades again close to the spaces where I have given the, you know, jewelry. I want to give that effect of, you know, lightness and darkness there. And this is the time where, you know, I want to give a little more of shading here and there. Let's see what we can do here. Yes. So I'm wiping off my brush because I have this darker tonality and I want to use the same brush. So a little more of this yellow, but not totally yellowy. So I'm just taking a bit of this olive green and taking it. So I'm taking a little more of the yellow tint and using it to shade some portions where the light could fall even, clearly. I can go a little more lighter. Here on the sides. Very lightly adding the places where the shade has to fall. Shade could fall, or the light could fall rather, sorry, the light could fall. I'm not looking at the reference picture anymore, because I'm just thinking where the light could be thrown, and it's up to you the way you want to work. If you still want to refer the image and try to imagine with the help of the image, that is also fine. Yeah, now I want to take a tiny bit of titanium white as well, not too much, to give some sort of, so I'm actually blending it here. Do you see that it's not too much white? I don't want it to get dull, so be careful. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered much when we worked in the previous layers, but now it does. It will. You will see that it does. So be very careful with that, where you want to show the light. Not too much of titanium white, please. So let's give that angle nicely, yes. And I will definitely rely on the primary yellow as well. I want to give a nice border to this. That's also, I've done it in yellow, primary yellow. So that's how I've done this. This looks fine to me, and I want a deeper depth also to come. We rely on one more color, but be very careful with that. The ivory black, I try not to use too much of it. I would like to stick to more of these colors only. Yeah, brush 0. Gonna take that, very cautiously take a bit of this ivory black, and I want to go over this section, the spacing, but be very careful with that. You don't want it to show strongly as well, so you're going to blend it as well. So not too much, less is more here. Yeah, those angles that are showing her shoulder line, showing her length of the arm and such. These are really interesting areas, but just be careful with it. And remember, we want to use that shadows, use the effect of the black, but not too much. It gets really heavy so soon. So if you are not comfortable, you can always stick to the burnt umber also to do that. That's good practice as well. So I'm now going to blend that ivory black in here, carefully, cautiously blending in. Yeah? Maybe I will stick to taking a little more of burnt umber to help me with that process, because I don't want to take the more of black. And blend it nicely. Yes, do you see the way the angle is going and the way the darkness is appearing in there? And let's blend it also along the lines where we have used ivory black or burnt umber, whatever you have chosen. And for the chain, look at the way I have shaded it. I have shaded the inner side of the U from this angle and the outer side of the U. These are tiny nuances to just, reflect on where exactly the angles could go. Yeah. So I'm relying a little bit on this. I don't want to take more of the ivory black, so I'm using burnt umber. This color, yes. There must be some kind of slippage. Okay. Yeah. Lighter shades. Okay, I guess this is okay for layer 4. Let's do the same thing for the um, clothing here on her. It's a skirt, isn't it? So, and she's got a folded leg. Huh? So I think it was vermilion, isn't it? So let's do vermilion. We have darker shades already in our palette, and lighter shades also in our palette. What are they? So to the vermilion, we can do the same thing that we did with the green. We can use the darker shades and depth using the burnt umber and black a little bit to lighten up. Yes, it gets pink with white, so let's be careful with it. We can turn it slightly orangey using a yellow. So the palette is ready. I'll have to wipe off my brush. I want to use the same brush. I'm wiping off. If you want to clean it good, clean and come back, that's also good. Wiping off the green. The green is a strong color, so I'm just careful that I'm wiping off nicely. And then I will get started with this as well. So vermilion, taking a bit of vermilion, going over the lighter contours, lighter sections that we know. It gets easier also because we have done a lot of efforts when it comes to when it came to the layer 3. So it gets easier, but you'll have to focus on every single section a little more to give some depth, because we are building on depth. We are not drawing a new character, we are not creating anything new. What we wanted to create, I think we have kind of resolved with that in our layers 2 and 3 mostly. So unless you have any specific corrections that you have in mind, most of the things will be similar. So I filled out only the lighter portions. I want the darker angle, so I'm taking a little bit of a burnt umber, and I know that it will turn maroon very easily. Be very careful with this. It could turn into another color. It could be pretty, doesn't matter, but still, you wanted to have a slightly darker outlook here. there is a difference in shade. I have made a mistake. I just touched a little bit on her little finger here, so I'm just gonna try and rub off. Yes, good. Thankfully, yeah. Now for a bit more of darker shades around her, the contours. So I will take darker shades also. Do we need lighter shades? Yes, we will. We'll come to that, but not now. Let's do the darker shades first. I'm going to take a bit of burnt umber again. I'm not going to take black yet. Let's see. If burnt umber does the job, then why need black? Going over the contour, and you see that I am also simultaneously blending it. She's coming out bright. I'm moving this so you can see clearly. So the contours, it is burnt umber, flat brush number 1, and I'm going over the contours. Look at the way I'm going, and I'm blending also. Don't want it to look odd. I want to create this kind of image that there are frills possibly in the skirt coming out from that hip. So I'm just boldly doing this. And so these are, a part of your imagination. How do you want to show that the skirt, and how do you want to portray what she is wearing? Especially when there is less to show here because she is seated in this position. So here I go. I think it looks fair enough. I want to darken a little bit close to where the petals are, because it will be, hopefully it will have the shades of the petal falling on it. Yeah, even that is a detail, isn't it? So remember, we are building depth, and we try to look at everything ensemble. So we try to look at we try to look at every possibility to show how things are seated together. So where is the shade falling? Where is it coming from? I'm also adjusting the size of the knee here. Wow, yes. I think she's looking bright enough. We need a little bit of lighter tonality. Going to touch a little bit of the primary yellow to give some shades here. Tiny bit of primary yellow. To lighten up. I don't want white here, because then it turns into the pink, and there is a pink flower already, so really want to stay away from titanium white in this case. So I'm relying on primary yellow to blend ever so lightly in the places where I want to throw some light. Yeah, nice. Does it look fair? Let's see how she looks. I'm going to move it again so that you can see it completely. Yes, so that's how she is looking. Cool. Yeah, now let's work on the lotus flowers. Again, amazing sections. Now we are going to work on the details of the lotus flowers. The picture here is doing justice to the flower. It is still looking on the what do you call, may I say, cartoon image or something. So it's up to you which kind of flower you want to draw. Do you want to have it realistic, or do you want to follow this kind of structure? It's really up to you to choose. I mean, it's a lotus flower and it's a beautiful flower, so let's play around with this. I am going to take crimson now, and I will move on to another brush that is slightly bigger, possibly brush number 3 round is what I have chosen here. Yes, I've got crimson, and yeah, looking at the way the angle is, the way the picture is showing that there is some light. See, there is light coming out, and where is it coming out? It's coming from the gold, and the focus is really on the gold here, and that's why there is light thrown on the lotus. So there is this, communication between this gold plate and the lotus. That's why the shading is also really on the reverse. So we could try this logic, and of course you can choose the way you want to work with the color. I'm going to take this crimson. Crimson is at least it's mostly a translucent color as well here. So I am going to use the crimson only to see how the brightening up goes. I want to see how bright it can get, and I want to do the sorry, the top portions of the petals. Like this. Guess it will help to have this angle. So this is good. I'm just using this. Because of the translucence, it does show what is there in the previous layer. I'm taking advantage of that. So if I did it light, it is showing light. If it is dark, it is showing dark, and such. So these colors are playing out like that. And one other thing I want to be sure of is that when I filled in, I think I didn't really plan on how the angle is. I just filled in. So this time I want to be sure on showing that it is like a cup. Very carefully using the tip of my brush to work on these sections. Even at this stage, you see that it is beginning to show depth. We're still not done, but there is some amount of depth shown just because of the way we have filled in the color. It's just one color we have filled in. Remember, layer 3 really set the boundaries as to what we are going to do, and we are trying to stick to that boundary lines. If you are finding this layer 4 or layer 3 itself difficult, you can always write to me, reach out to me, and I will try to help you out, share pictures of what you have done, and let's sit together to understand how we can improvise here. Have broken things down into these layers to help you gauge the amount of work involved, and also help you plan things in a structured fashion while working on such large ideas. It's not large, but the idea itself it's a lot to work with. So right now, looking at the shades that I want to build, relying on titanium white a little bit. I'm gonna use titanium white, add a little bit of oil, and let me go around. So I'm blending here, and it is basically white blending in. Turning it pink. We'll do this exercise for other petals as well, and then we'll come back to creating more depth. I want to stick to creating the under petals as well. This helps me plan on this picture, and I here want to have this adjusted. Somehow I feel that this isn't right. How is it looking on the camera? Yes. Just taking suggestions from you here now. Because I wanted to adjust this. Yeah. Now for the lighter portion. Titanium white, and I am not blending colors on the palette. This is typically my style that I prefer. I mean, I have tried many times blending colors and keeping them ready and following instructions to the T. I have tried this and somehow it doesn't work for me. Let me know if you also have the same issue like me. Look at the texture that is coming out here. You could have a smooth finish or a rough finish like the one that I'm doing. By these finishes, what I mean is that there are strokes visible here, yeah, and the strokes are smoothened out in maybe a graphic design style. So that's a style of working, and that's also fine. If I choose to work on things like that, then I will take a much more smoother brush and go fine, up and down with it to get that smoothness. But I just want to play around to create the rough edges and see those, how they play out. And that's just my style here. And I, I have also worked on different approaches as well. So it's just up to you what you want to try. Gonna go ahead with the titanium white a little bit on those sections where the rest of the flower. Tiny places. This is exactly why I kept the crimson ready, because I knew I will spoil things. Yes. Guess we managed fine. Looks like I'm missing a petal here. It looks fine. Okay. This section looks like it is adjusted somehow. Let's do something here to give that a better angle. Slightly better. Looks good, but we need more tonalities to work with. Yes. How do we do that? To darken up, I'm going to rely on burnt umber. So just be careful again. Burnt umber is amazing color, but it could, swiftly change things over. So be careful. So I'm just carefully dabbing a little bit in that center section where there is possibly some kind of, darkness between the petals. Yeah, do you see that? And then I want to use it boldly in that last small little petal that is way away from our, yes, that is building depth. That's building depth, isn't it? Blend it. You don't want it to show burnt umbery all the time, yeah? Blend it nicely. Take those strokes along. I am cautiously using what I have remaining in my brush, not adding new color tonalities there. If you want to take a smaller brush to try, it's also fine. Tip of the brushes also help. Blend them in. Let's see how we are doing with the time. putting a little bit more depth in the tips of the petals with burnt umber. Yeah. And this time you see that, it's not too much of color as compared to what we did in the previous layer. Good. So that's how she looks. Guess I need a little bit more of white here to lighten up this space. I think looks fine. So far so good. We have a couple of small little lotuses we haven't done fully. Let's do that. That is good. Those couple of lotuses, again I'm going to take the darker tonality or the crimson itself directly. I'm going to use it nicely here, creating the petal ranges, and I will add lighter or shades there. There's really small little ones, isn't it? Use a zero brush, anything little if you want to be cautious like me, because I just don't want to spoil the background. I'm taking a bit of titanium white to give the angles. Need a little more, I guess. Yes, really there. It's coming out nicely. Let's give the darker angle as well, using burnt umber. I want to give that darker pinch close to that, the center where and also on the tips. Sharpening the tip of the petal carefully. Yes. And this time we need to remember to add one more thing. Where are these little flowers seated? They are actually being held by her, isn't it? So we need to put that small little branch that she is holding. You can have it in the browny green that we created is also a good one to work with to bring it down here. So it could look slightly on the greeny side. That's a good one. So it looks like she's holding it now, yeah? So that is taken care of. So I guess it's a good space for us to make a stop, and we will work on the next session doing the jewelry, because the jewelry itself, it's going to take a while. Just like the way we did it, we'll have to work on nuances, and then we also will have to work on the shine of it and such. So there's a lot of depth again we'll work on. So let's do that in the next class. But before we are closing this session, let's summarize. What we have done today is to take up this layer 4 further by working on the details of her clothing and also on the lotus flower. So we are finished with that, and we will make a stop here. We will continue on layer 4 for the jewelry in the next session, and with that we will be finishing layer 4 of this painting. But I say that only because my background looks neat and tidy. If I have made some mistakes with the background, then I would also work on the background for layer 4. But this time the focus is on the picture only because the background is looking good. So at times it happens that by this time it maybe looks good, but while you're finishing, you might have put your hand here and there with some colors and something is looking sloppy around, so you want to rework on it as well. So that could be possible. So we will take a look at the background as well as in the final sprint of layer 5. But for now I think it looks good, and I want to go with this. Yeah. So remember to write to me if you have any questions, any comments, feedback, and also wanting to have sessions with me, one-on-one sessions with me. You can also write to me at support@theglacestudio.tk. Until we meet in the next session, stay blessed, stay happy, stay healthy, stay motivated. See you. Bye-bye.